Brooklyn. I'm your host, Truther Girl Sonia. It's the 19th of April. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm here with Natasha, Truther Girl.
Hey.
Hey, Natasha. How you doing?
How's it going? Good, you?
Good. The chat room is open. That's truthergirls.chatango.com. truthergirls.chatango.com. So I hope you join us in the chat room. And we're going to be doing a 2-hour show today with Sevan Bomar. I'm very happy to have him back on. He was on with me a couple of weeks ago. And he's the author of The Code to the Matrix, a fantastic book, which you can see on his website, which is resistance2010.com. He deals a lot with everything esoteric. I mean, everything from, ancient civilizations and their cultures, their beliefs, masonry, the symbols, ancient aliens, and also things like ascension, activation, DMT, lucid dreaming. And so I'm going to put in the chat room the link to our my blog post today, so you can see what we're going to be covering, and also the links to his website, Resistance 2010, and also his radio show, Esoteric Radio, and the 2012 show on Sundays at 11 CST. So today we're going to be talking about some of those things like lucid dreaming and pineal gland activation. So welcome to the show, Sevan.
Oh, I just want to say thank you for having me back, or I always say forward. I mean, it's just an exceptional time for all of us, and I just feel so grateful to be here again, to be able to deliver the information, to have this 2-hour span so we can get things really, really clear. So I just wanted to say wholeness to you and your audience, and thanks for having me back.
Well, thank you. Thanks for coming on. So the last time you were on, we talked a little bit about yourself and your path and how you came to research these things and write your book. But today we're planning on focusing on some topics in particular. And as we mentioned in the blog post, what we were planning to talk about was the third eye. What does it really do? The third eye, which I think is also known as the pineal gland. DMT and ayahuasca, is it a good or bad idea for spiritual progress? And also lucid dreaming. So, the reason, I'll tell you a little bit about why I'm so interested in this topic, because, well, for one, as I've mentioned on the radio many times, I've had what I guess some people would call sort of psychic experiences that are really out of the ordinary in terms of foreknowledge or knowledge of things that were not revealed to me physically. And it's happened many times in my life, and the information is so specific and so accurate that I think I would be very unscientific to write it off as coincidence. And I've come to learn that a lot of this may have to do with the pineal gland, which is also called the third eye, that actually has some kind of rods or cones in it that explain why you see things as sort of visions. But I don't really know very much about it. I hear a lot of different things. Third eye, is this a bad thing? Is this something occult? Or is this just a natural part of your body that we've been sort of steered away from using? So maybe we could start off with that, talking about the pineal gland.
I don't see why not. We can start right at the top of things. I guess the big question that we now have to present to ourselves is, where does the psychic ability come from anyway? Because there's many people throughout history, it's not something that can be denied, have paranormal, extra-dimensional, hyperdimensional powers, and even though they may not be able to display it in full array in front of a stadium audience, they're also experiencing it themselves and know others that are experiencing it. So where does it really come from? And that's how we're going to really start to pull this apart today. It's going to become very simple, because we have to realize that we are connected, but what are we connected to? And realizing what we're connected to actually reassures, or if this was a wire, it would reinforce the tubing that is around the wire so that it can handle the conductivity behind what we're talking about. Because remember, in this conversation, we're going to mention things that will blow, as they use that term, blow people's mind. When a person's mind is blown, there's almost like a shorting out there, and that is a limitation of what they're willing to entertain and what they're willing to deal with at this point. But it's important to remind everyone that you came in solo. You came into this world as an individual soul or entity that is here for experience. So it behooves you to know exactly what you're capable of doing in order so that you know where your next trajectory or projection is going to be. And so we call this conscious immortality. It has already been proven that the human species, as far as containing a soul, it becomes immortal. But conscious immortality is actually being aware and keeping track of the multiple sequences of your life and all your different existences, which we just call the hyperdimensional self. So
Sevan, can I ask you something? Okay, I just want to bring this up because, you know, I am, by nature, I'm actually quite skeptical. I'm not the kind of person who, I mean, I'm open-minded, but I'm also skeptical. I'm not the kind of person who will hear something and just throw myself into it. You know, I have to really look into things. Mm-hmm. And I was talking to someone the other day who's, you know, being skeptic is one thing and being completely brainwashed and closed-minded is another. And a lot of times people who are really programmed by their education and society and the media for their entire lives and are basically just brainwashed, if you broach this kind of topic like anything psychic or, you know, interdimensional, multidimensional, all these things that you're talking about, they'll just automatically say, well, you know, this is a bunch of rubbish because it can't be scientifically proven. But I would think that, you know, if you start off working on the assumption that none of this can be possible because you've always been told that we are nothing but physical matter, physical beings with physical limitations. You start off with that premise, then all this evidence that could be shown to you, you will immediately discard. But that's you really not being scientific. In fact, that's you not even being skeptical. That's you just being, you know, showing the evidence of your programming and being closed-minded. So in my experience, like I mentioned, the experience that I've had with it, which has gone back years and years, are so specific. I mean, I'm talking about very, very specific foreknowledge or knowledge of things that happened in the past that there should be no way I could know about a particular person or that are happening with them right now. It just happens so many times that you can't just say, well, you know, it's not physically possible, so let's just discard it, you know. And with your research, you are much more knowledgeable about this topic. So remember, you're talking to a couple people here probably who really don't know very much about it. So with the mind, the functions that we have, this coming from the pineal gland, what is really happening when you have this kind of foreknowledge or insight into something you really shouldn't have? What is this part of your brain that's working, or is it another dimension of your being? What do you think it's coming from?
Well, I'm definitely going to be getting to that. What I would say is that the first thing is that for anyone that's still saying that science, this cannot be proven by science, obviously they don't get their memo and they're not real scientists. This is something that can be proven by science, but it doesn't have to be proven by science in a way that science needs to authenticate it. Science is a growing subject or religion that has now become itself, and so it cannot stand on a pedestal and attempt to judge spirituality and what we have as far as vehicles are concerned. Now, with our chakra centers, and the pineal gland is definitely one of the major chakra centers, these chakra centers are hooked into a universal system. So with people, we have to begin to explain to them how it all connects. So that way they don't have to accept it or deny it. It doesn't become that kind of knowledge. Truth, you don't have to accept or deny. Truth stands on itself. It's just truth. So you'll find it also redundified because real things, as we're real, have to be built on real structures no matter how much illusion you stack on top of them. So what these facilities attempt to give us is the ability to interpret each realm or each chakra center. So let's talk about basically what does the pineal gland really correspond to. Now, if we've already mapped out that each chakra center, and people have 7 major chakra centers that they know about, however, there are more chakra centers that are hidden, just like we have hidden planets that we don't see and we don't know really exist. So what happens is there's majors because those are the ones we put the most emphasis on. And because these chakra centers are very similar to spheres or balls themselves, it was always known by the ancients that these were the as-below resonators, meaning the earthly correspondence to the planets. And the planet's powers, because each planet has a specific ability, just like Earth has a specific ability, something very specific that it's doing in the universe. Because it's very interesting to watch now, because we're actually in the stage where the knowledge has already been corrupted. So you're looking at things like Earth is from anagram is an anagram for heart, EARTH, But all major systems that speak of chakras and things of this nature have identified the heart chakra as Venus, not Earth. So it's important for us to begin to realize what is the power that is going on. As they keep saying, the powers that be. What are they? How do we tie into them? Meaning, why are we even here dealing with this? And then, what can we do about all of this now that we've discovered all this? And each of those is a step-by-step process. So you can see humanity is actually at the point of taking the first step, which is acknowledging that there are other sentient life forms that are out of our visual spectrum, manipulating and doing different things in our environment. And we have to basically get to a point where seeing that there's more than just us, so that we can regroup, because their ability to remain hidden from us is an advantage. Anyone that you do not see, or something that you do not see that is sentient, will always have the advantage over those who cannot see it. So what the pineal gland does, because it's positioned in the higher parts of the body, which correspond to ethereal sight, it gives you the ability to see these entities which are overlaying our reality. They are here with us, but we're out of their spectrum or frequency, because we are primarily tapped into lower dualistic chakra centers, which are located in our legs.
Can I ask you something? Okay. Mm-hmm. See that, because I don't know if I'm not sure if you're talking about spirits or what kind of entity, but we're going to get into that. But that's something that I'm really not very well versed in. But just to recap a little bit, make sure that I'm on track with you. Okay, the chakras, which to me, as someone with a Christian background, always had like a negative connotation just to hear the word chakra, because, well, that's Hinduism, and, it might be something really bad. But I've come to realize that our body, being a sort of electrical circuit, that it produces electrical currents. I mean, your heart works on an electrical current, so does your brain, so does your whole nervous system, so that we literally do have energy in our body and energy centers. And that there can be such a thing as blockages anywhere along the circuit board, And sure. So the way I'm hearing you, from my perspective, when you're talking about chakras, they're like energy centers in the body that correspond to different physical and emotional and spiritual or ethereal functions. And exactly. That the other thing is, as you bring the planets into it, that this is something my husband's done a lot more research on than I have, but that the planets play a very important role in all of this. Like you say, we're connected to each other and the universe, but that would include the planets. And that, to me, when you talk about this has something to do with why something like astrology, which I've also always discarded as, kind of hocus pocus, charlatan, read your horoscope in the newspaper kind of stuff, but that the planets can have influences on our body, like the one has influence on the tides, or actually there's one very specific example of something that I suspect has something to do with the planets. It's just a little bit off the tangent, but there's this particular malady that some people get that I happen to have, the restless leg syndrome, which occurs only at certain hours of the night. And I had to realize at some point that it must have something to do with the fact that it's actually night, and it has something to do with the planets. So I'm pretty sure that the planets influence our bodies in many things, in many ways, and that, as you're saying, these different energy centers correspond to different planets, so that your body as an electric circuit would be influenced by the rest of the circuit, which extends into the universe, and including the planets around us. Does that make sense?
Yes, because it makes perfect sense, and I'm really glad that let's just keep breaking this down, because the body is a map of the universe. That is what the creators did. Just like they tell you there that every piece of the hologram contains the whole within it, they already put the human body as a map to the immediate universe. And if you understood even your leg and what planet or sector of the universe that corresponded to, you would be able to identify what is going on in that sector, even if you looked on Earth, because Earth is also a map of the universe. This system keeps redundifying in a system that everyone is familiar with and talks about, but it's called Phi. And there is a lot of mathematics, etymological connections, geometrical connections, and things that we can really lay this out and see that it's not something that we just found out. It's something that has always been going on. It's a universal knowledge. But not having this knowledge has become, for many of us, not having this knowledge has become a very huge problem in the reality that we're in, where others have these abilities.
Are you talking about beings outside of the physical plane that we're
in and outside the plane? And I do want to make a remark. Modern Christians know about chakras because of the New Age movement. Normal Christians don't even know the word chakra. And Gnostics knew, which are the real, if you want to say the real followers of Isu, the Gnostics, they knew about all of it. So it's very important to keep marking, of course, the Gnostics knew about, they were Ophites. Ophite means serpent.
I don't know much about the Gnostic. Because I know that some people say, well, Jesus was a Gnostic, which I don't know if it's true or not. But what did the Gnostics say about energy centers in your body?
Well, I definitely don't know if that's true or not. If Jesus was a Gnostic, like there's still a lot of, there's a lot of discrepancies in there because of the knowledge and information, of course, was stolen in many cases.
Going into a break, Sevan, but I hear music. Yeah, so we're going into a break, but stay tuned. Natasha and I will be back with Sevan in a moment. The 19th of April, and I'm here with Truther Girl Natasha.
Hello.
Hi, she's here, and the chat room is open. That's truthergirls.chatango.com, and we're talking to Sevan Bomar, author of Decode to the Matrix. And I'm welcome back, Sevan. I'm going to, as I said, pick your brains a little bit more, because I really want to understand what is going on. What is this thing that we have in our minds that helps us, as I sometimes say, I'm having a birtation here. I can't even talk. I'm so excited. As I sometimes say, see outside of time, because it's like we perceive time as being linear, but it kind of really isn't, because otherwise, see, I used to think like, oh, I'm seeing the future, but I'm not seeing the future, I realized. It's just that everything there is sort of happening simultaneously, or like we're just constrained into thinking time is linear, and it's like you just kind of, I could be wrong here. This is just one interpretation I have of it, that you're somehow stepping outside of this linear time continuum, and so then you can sort of see things that are going towards the future or the past. But so we're talking about this having to do with the pineal gland, which corresponds to, is it the crown chakra?
Mm-hmm. And so I really would like to just entertain that. Like, if you think about it, when you go to a higher place, let's say, and then you see something, you're only seeing something that's about to also happen in the lower places. The only thing is there's a time delay with light, meaning that once it happens at the control point, which we're not on physically, I will say, once it happens at the control point and you see it there, then you know it's eventually going to take place. Your spirit knows it's eventually going to take place in the physical reality. So you have all the time in between there to attempt to alter it, to warn others of it, to congratulate others about it, etc., etc. And so it's just it's a time delay thing. So what you're seeing is you're seeing the first emanation of the idea itself. That's what your pineal gland is the foresight for that. So the pineal gland is not limited to just giving you that ability. It does have also other abilities because it turns on other things in the system. It's one of the primary chakras that actually ignite or catalyze the other chakras so that they start to work.
And I wanted to add something to that, because as I said, having a Christian background, I've always been very like, oh, I don't want to hear about it, chakras or this. I mean, I still, will draw the line at like tarot cards or whatever. I mean, there's certain things that are magic, whatever. I'm not interested in that kind of thing. But this is just sort of part of your body. I mean, this is your hardwired electrical circuits, energy in your body. And, this is the way that God made your body. And even in church and in the Bible, if I could tell you honestly what I think, they speak of spiritual gifts like word of knowledge and things like that, which, I used to dabble in the occult when I was a teenager, and that was a long time ago. But when I went to church, I realized that, the occult for me was not a way to tap into this, and that I think it's destructive in my opinion. But that doesn't mean that, if you're a Christian, that now like you can't access all these parts of you, because they're still there. They're just, God made you that way. And in a way, like this pineal gland, to me, who's to say that this is not what you get when you are tapped into God and you're more, I guess, activated. So you could say
exactly.
Holy Spirit, and you start to have maybe your pineal gland or whatever it is that does this in your body or your mind is activated. Because when I went to church, I still had my gift, but we called it word of knowledge, and if anything, it was stronger than ever. So
exactly.
To me, this is not like some evil occult thing. I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, I mean, these faculties, for those who have the genes or have the ability to do them, intensify when we vibrate on a higher frequency. And so, of course, joy, laughter, singing brings us to a higher frequency.
Yeah.
Many churches are configured on top of ley lines. They already had this knowledge, the individuals who built the church. Sometimes there's spirit guidance where the person doesn't even know why they built the church in this particular area. But these churches are on ley lines that push out energy of the earth, and then it causes the person to go into an experience. Now, remember, the whole thing is still in this reality based on control. So what happens is now your spiritual ability is Jesus's. And that's where people have to realize that this is where the line gets crossed in all of the entire world about who is really responsible for us having these abilities. So what happens is that these things like sight, foresight, and things like that get traded into, those are talents that the Lord gave you. And this is very tricky terminology.
They don't say like, if you have a word of knowledge or whatever, that it's not Jesus, like limited to the physical person that Jesus, it's the Holy Spirit, which to me is like the spirit of the creator of the universe, which is pure love that you're tapped into now. And that's where it comes from. You're basically talking about the same thing.
Right. Well, see, that's why it's a Trinity, because in the text, in the Gnostic text, the Holy Ghost, the Holy Spirit, is Sophia. And Sophia is the wisdom. Now, yeah. Sophia also comes from the word Sophis, though. So we're not even talking about our earthly presence. We're actually talking about Assyrian presence, because that's what was going on in Egypt. They were worshiping Sophis as the star, the light, the bringer of the dawn, etc. So this is where, when it finally gets into religions, it gets all put together and rolled into one category. But astronomy is what we're really dealing with here. We are dealing with, some people say astrology, and that immediately brings up tarot cards and predictions from the newspaper. But when I say astronomy, you immediately see telescopes and stars. So what we're talking about is astronomy, and how these lights that we're seeing in the sky have energy that is emitting from them. Mm-hmm. And how the ancients were able to interpret what energy was emitting from them is because they had access to their third eye, which functions like a capstone on your body. Basically, it gives you, it lights up your whole body, even as the Christian scripture says, with one eye open, you light up the entire body. So they're talking about the third eye. So it was very easy for individuals that had third eye abilities, no matter how they had attained them. Because remember, India is a place where they give third eye abilities through certain rituals and through certain techniques to negative people. So if you had that kind of thing going on with you, and then you went out to, let's say, the Greeks, which is where most of this was put together. If you go out to the Greeks and you show them these abilities, they're going to hail you as God. They're going to put you on the throne as Apollo, because you have opened up the sun to them. That's how it was termed to them. And so we, as humanity, are also suffering from the same things the Greeks suffered from, which is trying to narrow down this stuff so that we can just figure it out right now, so that we can figure out what it's going to do for us and how we're going to get a car off of it or something like that. This is far more vast.
It's like they're fitting it in with their existing schemas, making sense of it with how it fits in with their religious beliefs. But it, like you said with the Greeks, and they're going to fit it in with, this must be Apollo.
Exactly. Exactly. And this is This has become, I'm talking to people so that they today can stop including everyone else into whether they're going to accept it or not. Because what that immediately does is it puts you into duality. So you can make yourself believe or not believe in that state. And it's just very dangerous. It's better for you to think of yourself, start listening to the knowledge, and then start settling back into yourself. And this is what hypnosis does. And let's start moving into that. What hypnosis does is it places you outside of yourself, and it places something else in control. And that's why hypnosis is ancient. It's not something that Houdini or the Magical Society of New York or somebody invented. So here's another thing. As we dig deeper into this, what we find out is that what the human has to do, and this is what we were talking about on the break, is they have to run a gauntlet, for better lack of words. They have to be tried and tested with each ability step by step. And when you're going through these steps, it's like you're going up a ladder. So to fall off a ladder from really high hurts a lot more. To fall off of it after you've hit only a couple steps doesn't hurt as bad. So where Christianity is, because it's still a stair-step process, where Islam is, it's still a stair-step process, is lower on the ladder until you reach the full realization of who is really controlling all of this. And people will be amazed to find out it's them. See, because there's partnerships, there's relationships, there's agreements, there's frequency matches, biorhythm connections. There's all this stuff that we are using, and we don't even realize this is what we're using. So we basically forgot how to use it. And this is what these abilities are also about. They're things that we forgot how to use, and now our instinct is bringing it back.
Yeah, and I want to add something, because when you just said that there, it just made me think of something. We're talking about it being like electrical circuits, having energy centers, and being also multidimensional beings, and as you said, connected to everything else in the universe, that there is really no separateness on that level. And then for me, with my Christian background, this makes me think of, how they talk about the Holy Spirit, or the Holy Spirit of God, which is everywhere, which is also the indwelling Holy Spirit. So how is that really any different? Exactly. It's like you tap. You've opened yourself to be reconnected to God. You could call it the creative love energy of the universe. I mean, that's how I would interpret this. But that's me fitting into the way that I can explain it in my language.
Exactly, and that's what's happening, because how we can understand it, or what we understand, is our limitation. It's not necessarily the limitation of every being in the universe. We've gotten conceited with that. So what happens is our limitation creates a certain bubble, basically. Like, let's say for yourself and what you know, your bubble is X. Your bubble is a certain size. Now, if there's another entity that has a more vast understanding and understanding and overstanding than you, its bubble is bigger, so thus it can envelop your bubble inside of its bubble. Does that make sense? That's like a very simple diagram.
People let in a foreign spirit or something like what they call a demon, and then that thing kind of controls you. Is that what you're talking about?
Well, this is even from a level of the world, because if you look at the world, it's a giant bubble, but we're sitting in these auric sacs, or whatever you want to call them, so we're in another bubble. So these are like bubbles inside of a bubble. And that's why they say the diagram of this most of the time is an onion. And onion, of course, is one of the closest words to Orion. It means a lot, this etymology, these planets, this connection. We can get the answer to everything that we're experiencing here right now. But we see these fields enveloping fields. So what you want to do is you want to pierce through the bubbles. And that's what you're doing when you're going on hyperdimensional travel. You're going into, most people do this when they're asleep, but you're piercing through the bubbles of the different realities. And of course, the availability of being able to do that while awake is coming upon humanity.
And so this is the thing, though, that these... Oh, Natasha, you have a question?
Oh, it's fine. I wanted to ask you, how were you inspired with this information or this theory?
I've been through several levels of spiritual experience. As a child, I just wanted to know what happened when we died. And it bothered me. No matter where I was in life and what I was doing, especially on a material level, I had this uneasy feeling that, but you're still going to die, and nobody's figured that out yet. And then even as a child, when I saw them launch stealth bombers and saw how much the budgets were to do that, because I grew up on a military base, I said, well, why couldn't they just take all that money and invest in figuring out what's going to happen when we die? Because that's something that we all have to confront. Now, I figured out in my 20s that other people had this same question and had already figured it out. But how it played out for me in my life is I began in Islam, Wahhabi Islam. My mother raised us in that. And then she made a switch from Islam to Christianity because of the masculine oppression that goes on in Islam. But she was not just a woman that was going to join any spiritual location. So what she did was we went to every single church. And so through this, what I believe is I went through occultation, or what I call, they call it now the hidden university, or the invisible college. This is when there are other beings, whether you call them soul mates, whether you call them higher selves, guides, or whatever. There are other beings that already start to prepare you for what your mission is going to be in this life.
Are we talking about an astral plane?
Well, I mean, yeah, we've been talking about multiple planes, but the reality is that you will see these people even manifest as physical beings, and sometimes as ethereal beings. And that's why I was trying to say the interconnectedness of what we have is an entire support system of the tree that we sprang from. That's why you call it your family tree. Whoever you're connected to is not gone. They're just on one of these other planes. And when you have access to that, because you've activated that chakra, you've overcome that klippot, which means that to every chakra there's a downside. Once you overcome it, then it actually turns on. You maintain and reestablish connection once again with that system.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, we're going to go into a break really soon, but with what you're talking about now, what I'd like to touch on, though, is, what you just mentioned, the overlap between our physical reality and then our other dimensional reality, which is either through your dreams or through what, as we mentioned in the beginning, what we're going to talk about, ayahuasca or DMT, and even just your own thought processes and how much that will actually influence your reality, and is not only a reflection of your outer reality. Like people say, I'm thinking this. We're going to go into that when we come back. We're going to that break. So welcome back to Truth Girls. Well, hi, everyone. I'm your host, Truther Girl Sonia. I'm here with Truther Girl Natasha. The chat room is open. That's truthergirls.chitango.com. And we're talking today to Sevan Bomar, author of The Code to the Matrix. Now, I have 3 calls here that I'm really sorry I didn't take your calls before. We were in the heat of our discussion. I see area code 256, 804, and 502, Sid in Kentucky. So I'd just like to let you know I see you all. I'm going to take your calls. So I'm going to start now with area code 256. Welcome to the Truther Girls. You're on the air. Hello?
Maybe they went to the washroom.
Hello?
Oh, yes. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, we're good. How are you?
I'm great. I've been enjoying the conversation. I wanted to clarify the author's book again, the name and title of his book.
Oh, that's the Code to the Matrix, ma'am. I'm not sure if Sonia heard you, but that is the Code to the Matrix. It's available for free. It was published about 2.5 years ago. So, of course, the website itself is really the continuation of the work. But you will find that on the front page of the website, available for download.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. And what is...
The website is resistance2010.com.
Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you for
so
calling. Okay, and I have another caller here, area code 804. Welcome to the Truther Girls. You're on the air. Hello? I kept him waiting so long he fell asleep.
I don't think he's asleep. I think he's over there probably grabbing his crystals or something. He's like, this is it. I'm taking off.
I imagine, like, you know, in the Mad magazine where the person's on the phone so long they start to have cobwebs and then eventually I'm sorry about that. Area code 804. Okay, well, look, I'm going to have to put him on mute for a bit. Maybe he'll come back later. And Sid in Kentucky is here. Hi, Sid in Kentucky. Welcome to the Truth or Girls. You're on the air.
Hey, Sonia, I'm speaking to.
Hi, it's Sonia. How are you?
Hey, honey, how are you today?
Good. Thanks for calling in. So what's on your mind?
Hey, what a great topic. You don't hear it too much in this venue. Matter of fact, you don't hear too much about spiritual things, which is a sad thing, being that that's what we should all be looking to. I'm at the place in my life, I'm starting my 7th decade soon, and I'm in the place in my life where I've come to the conclusion without divine intervention, we don't have a hope. And that's a good thing. It's a beautiful thing because everything is available to us, Sonia. It's all available to us for the asking. We don't have what we need because we don't ask.
Mm-hmm.
I'm walking timeline. I'm sorry, honey. Go ahead.
Oh, I just said the Bible tells you the same thing. You don't receive because you don't ask. And this, what Sevan's talking about, to me, if you're sitting there praying and meditating is very similar. And if you're sitting there and you're focusing on something, or you're lying in bed and you're thinking about something, you're fantasizing about something at night, and if you're fantasizing about something destructive and awful and that you really don't want your life to go in that direction, but you're focusing on it, believe it or not, you're going to make that happen. I mean, I've had that experience. And if you're focusing or asking for what you really do want to, the direction you really do want to go to, that's going to come to pass as well. I mean, that's the thing that I'm trying to touch on with this, is how much overlap there is between your mind or your spirit and your physical reality.
Right.
It's no doubt. There's no
how to safely build that up. How to safely make things happen by building pure energy.
Mm-hmm. There's no doubt, guys, that the pure energy that you're talking about is it's a real deal. I'm walking in timelines. I didn't particularly want to, but I asked for it accidentally. I wanted to know what was going on, and all of a sudden I found myself in different timelines, and it was quite disconcerting until I understood it was actually what I asked for. Yeah, I know.
This is what you're asking for.
I think that's what we were talking about over the break is that what we were talking about is this genie in a bottle effect that people think that they're going to get with DMT or they're going to get with all of this stuff. But the next question that a person needs to ask themselves is, what you actually want? Have you heard everything that there is yet before you choose? Because remember, what 2012 is going to be about is whatever you choose is whatever you're going to do, they say, for the next 25,700 and blah, blah, blah years. But what I'm saying is that you can make the choice now, and for your continuous cycle, your EverQuest, you will be in control. You can line yourself up. And we have all the instructions here to do that, and that's what the illusions, that's why our environment is inorganic and organic. The organic part is what's real, and the inorganic part is what's not real. But extremes meet. And that's what the most powerful knowledge that people can think of when they're experiencing a situation or see a situation that they don't like. Just remember, extremes meet at some point, and you're looking at it. Now, to stop watching it, you have to start to do something about it. But do not think that you're going to go at it with brute force. It's like, in our reality, we're used to moving dense. We're used to moving in a very cumbersome way. In the light body is swift. In the activation of the centers that we have within us, they're there. They were given to us. Like, this is our lot. The only thing that can be continuously told to us is what we're talking about, the programming. There's continuous programming. But now we have to have individuals that understand that programming and know how to go within it and remove it and then replace it with something else. This is surgeon's work.
Exactly.
You notice how fast you can lose a person at times.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. As you were talking about this, Sevan, I was thinking the same thing. It's like you got to rewrite your own programming, and don't underestimate the power of it. And if you're doing that while you're praying or you're meditating, and what you're doing is you're one with, or you're tapping into God or the creative love energy of the universe, and that being inside you is just strengthening this process. But
exactly.
You're really doing that. You're like having help. You could thank God or whatever, but rewriting your code.
Right, and see, the mind puts the spin on your energy. It tells your energy where to go. And you can see this in DMT very well, because when you smile, everything lights up. The plants light up and everything. And when you frown or when you feel dark energy or low, you see everything start to die around you. This is what gets very strange, because you start to realize that the reality is 100%, because you know you're looking at something 100%, but it's responding the way you respond, but you're able to see across all layers or all veils.
Well, that's it. And when you're on the DMT, you can actually see that. I've never done DMT, but I did do ayahuasca once. But I know what you mean. It's like you see this process more clearly, but it's happening all the time. You don't have to be on DMT or ayahuasca for this to happen. Constantly influencing your own reality and even interacting with the reality that's even outside of you that you're not really disconnected from. And like you say, you put that smile on and it puts out a certain energy, and you're going to get that back.
Exactly. And that's why, what the big precaution is with a lot of this stuff is there's no turning back. So you have to be fully prepared for what you're entering. It's not for children, for better lack of words. You can spank the child has the next time to make the mistake again. When you start going into the light fields, the spectrums of light, you move so fast. If you hit something, meaning you didn't get something worked out, you didn't train yourself properly, you took it, you didn't think it was serious, but now you're there. You hit something with such impact, it can damage you. So this is the warning to everyone to take the step-by-step process, the inner alchemy, as they call it, or alchemy, and work it on yourself. There's a lot of stuff that you do with your body, meaning the cleansing of the body. There's a lot of stuff that has to be done with that in order to be able to remain cohesive there. The idea here is to activate, but we understand exactly what the activated human is about, but allow it to keep running, meaning a person that is fully activated and in motion. And many people see activated individuals in their life on their TV. They see individuals who are using certain chakra centers and getting stuck in that chakra center. This is also where some who have risen very high in the chakras, the Brahmic planes, look down on the lower beings with scoff and pity, instead of doing something about it. You see these kind of people on our dimension. You see, there is a physical correspondence to the most elite being, for better lack of words, right here on our planet. And so this is, you see there's temples all over our planet. But these entities have this multi-dimensional ability, and they know how to make it work. Humanity is inside of a body that has now become for them a pin. That's why it's called the pentagram. And it has them trapped in there. But while the knowledge of the pentagram can actually free someone from it. So this is what they say. In the garden, Eve had this apple. Eve means night. It's the symbol of the negative or the dark feminine, the watery deep. She had the apple. Apple, when you cut it in half, there's a pentagram there. Do it right now. There's a pentagram there. So what they're saying is the knowledge of the pentagram, or the ability to understand the soul and the universe, had been given, and then all of what we're looking at now that we're calling problems ensued from it. You see, because it is the Pandora box itself. Yeah. And so now we're living in a reality, not to cut everyone off here, but now we're living in a reality where that's already been done by other individuals, not necessarily you, maybe someone in your bloodline, but not necessarily you, but it's been done already. So now we have to summon ourselves so that we understand how to deal with this. And that's why the spiritual component must move in, because we can't do it by marching downtown. We can't do it. We definitely can't weaponize with physical weapons. I mean, are you kidding? These people are the lords of war. Like, that's what they call them. They even have the perfect etymological, especially Hebraic and Kabbalistic synonyms for the names that they represent and the pain and the suffering that they deal out.
And we're going into a break. 19th of April, so thanks so much for joining me. I'm here with my co-host, Truth Girl Natasha.
Hey.
Hey, Natasha. And we're talking to Sevan Bomar, author of The Code to the Matrix. Hi, Sevan. And The chat room is open. That's truththegirls.chatango.com. And the lines are open, 218-339-8525. And Sid has been on with us through the caller line for the last 26 minutes. Are you there, Sid?
I am.
So, Sid, I just wanted to say thank you very much for calling. And, I'm going to let you go and take another call. Thanks so much for your questions.
You're welcome, Sonia. Have a nice day.
You too.
Sid.
Bye-bye.
All right, so I have a few more calls here. I have one, area code 804, who wasn't there before. And I see also a 504 and 256. So if you're on the line, stay on the line because I am going to take your call. Hold on, let me just see if area code 804, welcome to the Truther Girls. You're on the air. I don't hear anyone there. Okay, I guess we've lost him somehow. Oh.
Yeah, I think that was 804 last time that we had lost.
Okay, well, all right. Area code 256. I'm going to take your call. Okay, area code 256. Welcome to the Truther Girls. You're on the air.
I'm sorry, it was my line that had dropped earlier, but I did want to ask the author again one question, if I could. He had given a little background as to how he came to, through his experience of wanting to understand the process of death. And I wanted him to elaborate a little bit more on what his final conclusions were as to how he now understands the process of physical death.
Okay. So let's just address just that directly, the process of death, rather than getting into, how I came upon the knowledge. I've blogged that in other spaces, so everyone has an opportunity to look through that. Well, what actually happens is what I'm putting forth is the paperwork on involution, which I believe we've been looking at this evolution, but we've been ignoring this involution, meaning ignoring what is the transmutation of the soul. Because the body goes in one direction, it returns back to the mass, it returns back to the earth or to the dust, and then it becomes regenerated, and it even has a level of sentience, probably grows up as a tree. But the soul moves on until its next phase, and it happens for a flash for the soul. And what you've been looking at here on earth is there's an evolution chain put together where the souls go through it, as if these animal bodies are like clay jars, and the souls go through it, and it shapes and molds it all the way until it gets up to now what we're calling the supreme physical being, which is man and woman. Once it gets into that shape, there's, of course, some things, other shapes that are beyond that, but they're non-physical. But we'll just talk about this in particular. What happens then with the soul is that it has now the opportunity to either continue in the wheel, meaning it can even begin to descend or climb down the ladder back through all of its experiences, which are called the tunnels. It can go back through all of its experiences and how in different levels of what it used to live as. And this is where the books that are being hidden about the knowledge, this is what they contain. These tunnels lead down passageways that are full of archaic energy, what they call in the Egyptians netter. These are like the pig, the cow, the crocodile, the core mammals and beings that are here on this earth. So this is the individuals who've pierced into these, what they call outside of time, have at least discovered what is behind us is multiple animalistic lifestyle experiences in which we were gaining senses and limbs and losing senses and losing limbs. So now where we're at with this is that we're at a place that's called Midgard. They say it's the midpoint in between whether you're going to become the grand glorious or the what's just called the diabolical. Are you going to split? The word is die. This is when they say you die, it means the number 2. Are you going to split again? This means your spirit and your body are going to leave each part ways from each other and then somehow meet up with each other again in another life. So this is the individual experience that's going on within the individual, and this is the one that they should start to focus on, and then when they fix that, they can help everyone else outside of them. So I'm just giving you a glimpse inside of this. Of course, it's an entire paper that I'm putting together on the evolution process. But this is not new, I will tell you. It's a heresy that this information has always been available. It has just been hidden from humanity by the current regime, which has now been overthrown. We have to realize that we are in the middle of a holy war between deeper forces that we have not yet gained the ability to fully comprehend. Some of us do, but to sit down and talk about it intelligently and with reason without a person shrinking back and aghast and saying, that's evil, then that's a whole another session. What we have to realize, again, is it's not going to be about good or evil anymore. It's going to be about what comes next. We each have this ability to reap and sow. We all do it individually. When we put forward our positive acts, we know what we're going to get back. When we put forth our negative acts, we know what we're going to get back. This is a system that is going to be swift in how things happen, meaning that, and this is the key to this, as things speed up, as they are, when you manifest something in your mind, it's going to happen a lot quicker. Now, remember what I told you about going fast. If you're manifesting your every thought almost instantaneously at a certain point, I want this, bing, it pops up. Be careful, because you can start to manifest a great deal of weight and a great deal of things that you don't need, and they're not going to help you. But keep your go ahead.
Yeah, I want to ask you something. See, like I follow you on what you're saying, and at the same time, with the kind of background that I have, I know that I can kind of hear how some people would interpret this. And somebody had brought up in the chat room about that what you're talking about is basically Illuminati religion. Okay, now, first of all, I'm not into any kind of religion, especially not Illuminati religion. And I've had a lot of people on the radio talking about what really goes on with the people at very high levels of society. I mean, this is absolutely, totally evil. These are people who engage in what I would call satanic worship, ritual abductions, ritual murder, torturing adults and children and sucking their energy out of them by doing this so that they can reap it for themselves. I mean, they're empowering themselves with the darkest, most disgusting energy. And for what? To have more power here on earth, to enrich themselves monetarily. In my opinion, those people are slaves to the devil. That's how I would put it. So
in addition, I mean, when a person says something like, okay, let's take that statement, Illuminati religion. So at this point, if I show you a triangle and an eye on top, you say that's the Illuminati. So that means that whatever information that was affiliated with that, you've written off as Illuminati, that it belongs to them, and now you don't touch it because you don't want to touch anything that the Illuminati touch. But the triangle doesn't belong to the Illuminati, my friend. And a lot of the other stuff, the so-called Illuminati, a lot of the other stuff that they have taken, they've stole this. And that's why when that truth comes out, it's going to blow everyone's mind about how they stole this knowledge from Africa. But this is anytime, I would just want to address this because we have plenty of time in the conversation, but anytime a person makes that statement, it's only because of their own ignorance of understanding the entire spectrum of what is going on. And this is what we're being challenged to do in order to figure this out, because if we don't, we can't see the whole thing. And so if we can't see it outside of us, this is how bad it's gotten now. If we can't see the perfection outside of us, it slowly starts to wear down the perfection inside of us. And this is why if we look at this reality and we watch it dying for too long without us doing something about it, we start to die. And that's how it works. We were yoked together. This is the relationship between a mother and their children is what we're experiencing here on the planet. So, again, all of that knowledge could still be rolled under this one little small umbrella called Illuminati religion and then totally get thrown away. And then the individual that does that will be missing the Illuminati religion piece of their imperfection. You see what I mean? Like, I keep challenging people now to what is going on. Dig deeper and find out. It's now time that we have to pull all this apart, and this is what you get. But you don't see it just in books. You can look at the sky, and you can look at your body. And if you can't trust that anymore, then surely these individuals that you're calling Illuminati have succeeded, because we have to understand this interconnectedness.
Yeah, well, I agree with you, Sevan, that, we're given certain information on the internet. We know that there are very evil people who are running the world. We know they're part of secret societies, engaged in all kinds of magic. And so, we don't want to have anything to do with that, obviously. But at the same time, they're the ones who've been telling us that we're nothing but our body. There's no such thing as your psychic phenomenon. Meanwhile, the military is running experiments with it, like Jeff Harvey has told us about. And he was part of this. They're telling us that you're nothing but this, and these things don't exist, and this is what your life is for. You work and you get the wife and the picket fence or whatever and the dog, and you got to serve us. And that you're a victim. You see, like all this talk about all these awful things that are going on with the TSA or whatever else in the world, you're a victim and you're at the mercy of the powers that be, when really what we're starting to realize is that we actually are much more powerful beings, and that we create and co-create reality, collectively, influencing our collective reality and in our own reality. So that's all that we're talking about.
Right. I mean, it's just multi-layered. We have to get to the point where we can start attacking it from all points. It's like we're just being challenged. And this is what what's really being seen within us, is that when the challenges arise, how we react to them is what's being really watched. I mean, at least to me, like I have the power, at least at this point, to pull outside of myself, to see that some people say, I am not the body, to pull out from all of your different layers that you exist within, and then to see yourself as the minuscule, and then come back all the way through those spheres again and watch them all be added to you again. That's how that's something that you have when you leave Earth. And remember, this message is still for the individual person. What I'm telling you is that when they say, oh, you went through Earth, they say, oh yeah, I went through Earth and got the t-shirt. When I was there, I burst through multiple levels of the reality, because people still have to understand that their existence doesn't stop here. And that's why we have to continuously look beyond. And we're finding things. That's just the fact of this. And I will say also, all of this was really the same as when they told us, don't read. If people don't remember that anymore, or the world was flat. People don't remember that anymore, but imagine how many years passed before someone debunked that. So how many people died without the knowledge that you see the world is not flat? This is what we have to prevent for ourselves. That's what I'm talking about. I'm telling people to explore this for yourself and within yourself. See what you've experienced within your life and watch how it matches up when you're using the universal system.
Yeah, and you're not following anyone else or anyone else's religion. I mean, these answers are inside of you, and that's why we're talking about the pineal gland and also even DMT, which you don't need, but it just kind of, you'll see things more clearly at that moment. You'll kind of realize that there are things going on that you didn't see before, but they're always happening, and that effect is the effect that you had on the reality around you while you're on DMT. It's the same when you're not on it. But you're not following anyone else. I mean, we're not talking about religion, Illuminati or otherwise here. Sevan, you're talking about you're accessing basically knowledge that has been available for a long time, and that's been inside of you, and accessing your own other dimensions and more of your own power as a spiritual being.
Right, which seems to be prohibited in this sector of the galaxy. I will say that beings that are using their abilities often trigger others to start doing it too. See, they already had done an experiment that pretty much what we're calling the human species doesn't try to do anything unless it sees another one do it. It is the real hunter-monkey syndrome situation. So, they put the baby in the room, and then they noticed that if they sent all the adults to the baby crawling, the baby never attempted to walk. But after the baby got to the point of being able to walk. So then they started sending adults walking in there, and it was within no time that the baby started to walk. This shows that if people are not shown that how it's done, at times they have a tendency not to go to that next level. But guess what? The next level for us is the hidden. And if people think that that's spooky, does not everyone die? Where do they go? You see? Like that world is hidden, but it does exist. Surely grandma's not gone. This is the same thing that people always confirm to themselves and say over and over and over again, even within that sequence, and still don't realize that what I'm saying here is I have mapped out where they are and what they're doing. And that knowledge, and then I'm adding to that, and that knowledge is not mine. This is not a major revelation. It's been hidden from you by individuals that have cloaked it as their knowledge. And this even happens within the church. That's what I'm saying. It doesn't have to just happen with the Illuminati and Masonic lodges. It can happen within the church. It's a simple idea that basically the power does not come from you. I tell you the truth, the power is you. That's what they tell you also in the movie The Matrix, that the humans are the power supply. You damn right. Our heart pumps like we're generators. And even the body was made in itself to be perpetual. So this is the knowledge. Again, there's other humans, because humans are a very advanced species that have lived 200-300 years because they don't breathe what's coming out of the back of the Toyota in front of you. They're not drinking what's coming out of your water that is in your local water supply. They're not doing all of that. And so you have an opportunity to remove yourself out of certain spheres or combat those things. But the first thing is you got to know they're going on. So that's how you'll know that even things that you think are hidden are still physical. You just don't know about them. We haven't physically seen them. And so we got to get out of this. I got to physically see it. Now, again, the confirmation, a lot of people say, well, how do I know that exists? And I think that DMT was the final confirmation for most people that existed. But at the same time, it doesn't mean that it didn't exist before DMT. Likewise, when you finally find out, if you think it's a game and you think you could just play around with it, you'll realize really fast why you can't. Because DMT is the death of the ego. It means that all of what makes us like that, not take things serious, it goes away.
Well, we're going into a break, but we'll be right back after the break. I'm your host, Truth or Girl Sonia, and the chat room is open. That's truthergirls.chatango.com. And thanks to everyone who's joined us in the chat room. I do read the chat, and I do ask the questions to Sevan, where I send them to him. The caller line is open, 218-339-8525, 218-339-8525. And I just want to say thank you to the caller who's been online with us. I'm going to let you go to take the next call. Are you there? Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. There's another caller, 972, and I'm here with my co-host, Truth the Girl, Natasha, and of course, Sevan Bomar, author of The Code to the Matrix. So we're going to take this next call, and Sevan will answer their questions. But we have a couple other things we do want to talk about from the launching pad. What do you do? Practical applications of what we're talking about, your pineal gland or you're activating your chakras, let's say. Sevan's going to talk a little bit about that in terms of meditation and lucid dreaming. And Natasha has something she'd like to bring up about hypnosis. So we're going to talk about that. I'm just taking this call now. Area code 972. Welcome to the Truth or Girls. You're on the air.
Yes, I'm here.
Hi. Thanks for calling.
Hi, thank you very much. My name is David. I was on your chat a moment ago, and I was listening to Sevan whenever he was speaking about activating chakras and whatnot. And I just typed in a moment ago about, I live here in Dallas in the Bible Belt, and I grew up a Christian and all this other stuff. And I was wondering if there was a group here locally in Dallas that I could meet with them and start my training process or learning how to. Besides the Resistance website, which I go to quite often, but I just didn't know the basics about the knowledge.
Okay, I think that kind of runs in with what we were talking about of getting to the basics, the launch pad. Like, I guess what we did in the beginning of the show is we kind of showed the end of the movie before the beginning of the movie, so we're just going to start to explain within this last part how, all this came about. Because it's definitely for a person to experience, to actually believe. I'm just describing it, but I could never do the credit by fully showing you the experience. That's something that you have to do yourself. So I guess I look at this mind-body-soul system, which is where I really target the parts of the body, the mind, the soul that are actually not functioning. So what I would say is first is there's a brute force way. I always use that term because that's like when you work on the physical realm, it's called the brute force. Because there's a lot of bestial activity that goes on this plane. That's why humans can even be born with tails. There is an animal connection to every part of our body. The physical body is a hybrid. So in order to take care of the body properly, you could look at the system and see that the colon itself is where most of the activity takes place that's on a negative level. Since your body is a map of the universe, you could ask yourself, well, what planet even resides in the lower bowel area? And you even see the word bowels in bow, which means Lord, B-A-A-L-B-O-W-E-L. This is the actual section of where they call the lords, which means also is the word Lord, L-O-W-E-R-E-D. You see how all these words sound the same? This area corresponds to the Martian planet, or what we call hell, the red planet. So this knowledge, so I'm just taking one chakra in particular. When you're working with your body and your system, you tend to want to work from clearing up the things that are happening down there. So what we've done is we've linked up with another company that does provide cleansing for the body and cleansing for the colon. There's actually total body cleansing. And the reason why this is important, because if you were a baby still, then none of this would be necessary. But nobody drives a car around all day and all year and then infinitely, which is not going to happen, but they're not going to drive this car around without changing the filters, without changing the oil. So you have to use some type of internal cleansing kit for the body so that it starts to vibrate into a higher frequency. Because all you're doing is you're making your body have a higher conductivity when you remove waste. And the reason is because waste has protozoans and pathogens within it, mainly pathogens in different worms that William Reif had already proven have a certain frequency. We've identified the frequency, and that frequency is low. So what it's literally like for us is inside of our lower region of our body, there are lower frequencies that reside there that have been pulling us down. So what you have to do is you could go in and you can pass. This also is the word used for when you go into a higher state of consciousness. You can pass out a lot of the negative bowel, what's in your bowels, through a cleansing kit. So this becomes, and as you're going through this experience, you're also having spiritual enlightenment. Because even if you're considering doing this, then you already work with spirituality and you've already been seeking for answers to what you've been dealing with. So there is a prelude to even getting to this information. People have to understand that. So because some people say, well, if that's how simple it is, then why doesn't everybody do it? Well, first of all, what is everybody really doing? Their diets are horrible. They do all sorts of things. But this is the way to change that virtually within a period of time. It takes about a week, 2 weeks, to make a major frequency change. So again, this is a brute force physical way to make a major frequency change to internally clean the body. Now, let's go into the mind. The mind suffers from lots of programming, and it sees through dual eyes. Meaning when you see through two eyes, everything to you appears dual anyway. So how we take things in is naturally this good and bad side, which has become quite a problem for us, especially since someone is dictating what's good and bad to us. Someone is dictating who's ugly and who's pretty to us. Someone's dictating just about every single part of the process of our mind. And because our mind is it's like the controller of the entire ship, it tells it where to go. If your mind's not functioning, the ship doesn't move. Because the person doesn't even believe none of this stuff is even real. So how can there be a ship moving? Their body is a ship. The auric field around your body, which they try to identify as being Merkaba, it's more than Merkaba. Merkaba is one of the fields that spin around the body. We do have charts already up that show how many different fields are spinning around the body and the geometric shape that they're in. We also have introduced that you can break beyond these fields. Very easy. The fields are like training wheels to get you familiar with what's going up and what's going down in the layers of consciousness that you're either standing on or that's standing on you. So when you look at with the mind, we can talk about that a little bit later, just after Natasha says what she has to say, but that deprogramming process is necessary for the mind. Now the soul is very interesting because the soul, no matter what's happening to you, whether you deem it good or bad, is still growing. It's growing from every single experience. It doesn't even have a term of good and bad. It's only the mind that tells the soul what is good and bad. So this is why when these vehicles are all wired together, when one comes out of line, the whole ship crashes. So basically, you're on a planet with a bunch of crash-landed ships. Now I'm bringing knowledge of how to put the ship back together. It's like the manual to your body. You have a very powerful vehicle. No one told you that. You don't even know how to work it. Now let me tell you this. When you go to Best Buy and you buy the nicest electronic gadget there with the most features, doesn't everyone get a little bit excited for those who get into that? And they go home and they try to figure out all the features. You're standing inside of some of the most expensive organic equipment known to this side of the universe. But we didn't get the manual. Because nature and the connections with the energy of our ancestors and things were the ones who had the manual. And then they decided, you know what, it's better for them to learn it the natural way first. And then they'll see why the truth is self-evident, meaning that when you finally get to the truth, which is like written in black and white, this is what is really going on, it's self-evident. You don't have to challenge it anymore. You're like, okay, I see that working everywhere. And then there's a joy that comes because it's a freeing up of your energy. So hopefully that's just a short tour in this MBS, I call it, the Mind, Body, Soul System, just to run through there and see, because each one of your vehicles may be suffering more than the other. Soul may be in perfect shape. So also remember that a soul, or what we're calling spirits, or even demon. First of all, the word demon means divided man. D means to divide. D is a half of a circle. So it means to a divided man, or a diamond, because there's also a crystal correspondence to every human being that's here, but we won't get into that now. So the diamond, or the divided man, are also this other side to us, like the relatives that we want to ignore. These are the fractalized, disturbed parts of ourselves that we refuse to fix. And they manifest because we reflect back to them every time we get into a negative situation. These entities must be neutralized, meaning that we cannot leave them, we cannot destroy them. They simply must be neutralized with you understanding exactly why you're here. Meaning all of the pains that you've ever experienced in this place, you have to end up coming to terms with yourself and realizing that's what got you to be who you are. So you must be comfortable then with who you are. So if you're not comfortable with who you are, you can work towards this with the Mind, Body, Soul System. But if you are already comfortable with who you are, then you realize if you move any part of the past, any part, a small part, the entire future changes. And you know that when you're a Time Lord. Meaning when you're an individual that dreams and lucid sleeps and goes in and out of your different timelines, because that's what you have access to, then you see that everything that you start to move around in there, it really affects you. So at times, we do this only with our mind. You don't have to see this like an actual thing where you're going through this. We do this with our mind in an instant. Go back to the past and wish we had changed certain things. At times when we were children, we feel someone watching us, never realizing it's us in the future watching ourselves. When you're told to imagine you when you were a child and you see yourself. Now you're looking down at yourself. This is what's called the invisible eye. So again, the knowledge is very expansive. So you understand where humanity is right now. You also understand how the knowledge that I'm bringing really resonates and is correct. So then you can gauge the timeline on how long it'll take for humanity to fully get in the know about the information that they are. And you can help to speed up that process if you're an advocate of humanity, or you can help to slow down that process if you've somehow been deluded by the forces that are on the wheel of time.
Seven. We have a few minutes left in the segment, and
wow, okay.
It goes really fast, and I just want to make sure we can bring up this thing what happened to Natasha. So, how about this? We just have 5 minutes left. I'm going to take the next call, so thank you for calling, area code 972.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks. And I'm going to take this last call, and then the last segment, I guess we won't take calls so that we can just talk about what happened with Natasha. How's that? Is that okay?
Perfect.
Okay. So, area code 954. Thanks for calling. You're on the air with the Truther Girls.
I'm sorry. I'm just listening, actually.
Okay. All right. No problem. Thanks anyway. Okay. So, all right. So Sevan, just to recap, basically what you're saying is, and I know this is very important because even for things like ayahuasca rituals or other ones too, like iboga and things like that, that people who do this or who go through any kind of spiritual transformation process, whether it's using, herbs or not, that there's an important detoxification program, as you said, a cleansing program, and that also has to do with what you eat. Like you say, people eat a lot of bad food. So what you're doing, if you're juicing or what you're putting into your body, that's going to have everything to do with how you're going to raise your frequency. And the other aspect of it is your meditation and also the lucid dreaming, which maybe you'll have to come on some other time and go more into detail about how to do that. So this is all very important to that. And I guess everybody's just going to have to figure out their own path with this to sort of like activating themselves. So maybe we could talk a little bit about Natasha, because Natasha had an experience with hypnosis, which could have been very risky. And I think a lot of people don't realize that they're constantly being programmed and put under mass hypnosis or individual hypnosis in different ways. And, you know, luckily Natasha realized what was going on and was able to just sort of overcome it. But, you know, I want to share this information with you guys because you may be being subjected to similar things and not even realize it. So, Natasha, you want to tell us what happened?
Yeah, exactly. People might be subjected to this on a regular basis. Lots and lots of people might be manipulated in this kind of way and have no idea what's going on. So, and I'm a pretty skeptical person. I like to ask a lot of questions and look at all angles, this kind of thing. What happened in a nutshell was at the end of December, somebody had given me a healing. They offered to give me a healing. And so I let them give me this healing because normally healings cost a lot of money. I'm like, yeah, sure, do it. And what happened was they put me into this healing state, the whole relax and all this, and you're there relaxing, and they're putting you deeper into relaxation for like half an hour, and she starts telling me all this stuff, and it was like she was indoctrinating me into these beliefs that weren't like, they weren't the same as my beliefs, let's just put it that way. And so this was just the first of several healings that she gave to me in a small period of time. And then a couple days I had like 3 healings. And then for a couple days straight, she had this CD playing in the background, meditation CD playing in the background. And the whole time that all these healings is going on and the meditation CD is playing, she's teaching me, kind of like indoctrinating me about all these beliefs. And I'm going through this weird cognitive dissonance, but at the same time, I'm like unquestioningly believing these really far out things that she's telling me. And fast forward like 4 months later, like the whole time there's this weird feeling of something's not right with this, but I just kept going on with it. Yeah, okay, I get it. And something like I was researching mental disorders and hypnosis, and I realized what had happened to me. It all kind of came back.
Sonia, the chat is open. That's truthergirls.chatango.com. I'm here with Natasha and Sevan Bomar, author of The Code to the Matrix. There is a caller on the line. I do see you, Eric, code 786. But we're going to be talking about something for the moment. Maybe I'll be able to take your call in a little while. So, Natasha, so you were talking about how you let this person do this healing on you, and what they did was they hypnotized you. And it was only after a long time that you realized that you'd been put in a hypnotic trance. So you want to...
she's giving me these healings, she's indoctrinating me. I don't realize what's going on until like 4 months later, and there's something, I'm just like, something's not right, but for some reason I'm believing all this stuff unquestioningly that she's telling me, and that's so not me. It was so not me. And so I fell upon this information about cults, and I realized, oh my God, that's what I'm in. And I'm like, how did this happen? How did I get here? How did I get to be a part of this? What is going on? And then I thought about it, and I realized that the healings were really hypnosis, and I started doing a lot of research on it, and that's exactly what it was. And it's so easy to put people in that position. There's this guy I watched, Darren Brown, Derren, Brown like the color. If you guys want to look him up, amazing. The stuff that you learn that this guy teaches you, he's a mentalist, illusionist, magician, whatever you want to call it, but he works a lot in neuro-linguistic programming and hypnotism, and you can see how easy it is for somebody to manipulate you.
Mm-hmm. So, Sevan, well, you know what? Maybe I'll just put my 2 cents in that. What I've learned is that it's important not to be looking for someone else to give you the answers, to submit yourself to someone else's authority, to expect someone else to fix you, or too much to be your guide. I had an experience recently where I had really kind of put my faith into this person that I thought I was going to do something with, a spiritual process, and in the process of doing that, I realized that what I did was I was sort of giving up my own power to him. And what it was doing was actually weakening me and like discombobulating me, and that in the end it didn't work out what we were going to do. But I learned a very valuable lesson from it. Through my own meditation, I realized in the end what the answers were to the questions that I had anyway, that he or his process were not necessarily going to give me, but that were inside me the whole time, So it's important to remember that, the answers are inside of you, and be very careful who you put your faith in, because this is the problem with things like cults, and they'll look at someone and say, oh, they look open-minded, they look maybe suggestible, and they become a mark. And I think that's kind of what happened with you, Natasha, that you wanting to show goodwill and be like, yeah, okay, well, I'll let you do this and that. And next thing you know, they put you in a hypnotic trance. And like you mentioned with Darren Brown, it's actually very possible to do this. And it can be done quite profoundly. The person can be quite profoundly changed or influenced. So this is just a warning to everyone about putting yourself in someone else's hands. So, Sevan, what do you have to say about that, and how to avoid being put under, hypnotic, programming?
It's just like we were talking about on the break, Sonia. We have so much work to do on ourselves. It's almost like we're scrambling to work on ourselves and get ourselves together and develop. You can spend the time on utilizing the stuff that basically is you there learning. It's you there going through the cleanse. It's you there that's gone out into another country to get some of the green and to allow your healing to take place. So when you work on yourself, you're not as exposed to what the intrusion of the reality is, or even what's called a straight line. So this doesn't require a person. That's why most of what the resistance has is virtual, and then we provide it to a person in audio, and then the techniques and things that are used. There's just so much information on the internet. We can even now get to a level of giving a person information and knowledge. I think it's like what they call it, a hyper audio video experience, meaning that a video, a book, links to actually getting the product, etc. So definitely I would tell people to get a lot more familiar with what is really going on with the occult systems from the level of there's videos like What's in Plain Sight. Just getting a general knowledge, because most of these hocus pocus magical rings all still adhere to certain principles or watered down levels of those principles. And of course, Western magic most of the bulk of Western magic is hypnosis. It's not actually something where, how can I say it? Generally in the Eastern traditions, they deal directly with spirits. In the Western traditions, they're dealing with the idea that you're being affected by spirits, but there is not really a spirit there. And that's been done through the different drugs, the psychological drugs. It's been done through different methods within the United States and different countries such as Germany. So what we have, though, is that they talk about how so much your mind is powerful than your body. It's way more powerful, and the mind can put the body back together, especially in conjunction with the soul. So you just have to be exposed to that procedure of how to be willing to go in and work on yourself. Rather than all you're seeing on the outside, to tell you the truth, is just a reflection of what you are on the inside. That's been 100% proven. Where you're going in an altered state of conscious, generally, especially if you're using the third eye, is to the innerverse. You're not going to the outer verse. You're not going into space like a rocket, like people generally imagine. No, you're imploding. You're not exploding. If you exploded, you would explode, and you would actually cause a large force and a concussion in the reality. So, of course, when we're going somewhere and using our time gates, meaning this center of ourselves that is similar to an hourglass, when we're using that to project ourselves into other states of consciousness, this equipment, for better lack of words, has to be running smoothly. So what you have is you have all of this time now to work on yourself to get it to work smoothly, and then also what you have is you do have people like that will help you, but to a level that you don't have to necessarily expose yourself. You see what I mean? It's like we meet virtually most of the time, but we are building a physical resistance network just for individuals that need to receive certain things like MMS and all sorts of stuff that we know associated with this process. We don't have any real restrictions as far as what people think we should and should not do. I will say that. There's a whole entire expansive level of consciousness that we're all experiencing at this time. So this is like a real time thing. It's not where you're joining something that is already got its own doctrines and things around it. It's always evolving. It can never be limited to a doctrine. But we do examine all the knowledge that is passed forth on this earth that is worth looking at, and especially if it somehow adheres to the original system that was existed here. And we have that. Now, when you have that, it also allows you to see a long way away when something like trouble is coming. So you get it in you get it in a whole different way. It could be like that morning you just noticed a name that was on the ground. And then later that day, and it was written in a way that you felt was negative. And then that day you met a person that was by that same name. And then you also have the intuition and the energy you're picking up from them that that's a very negative person. You see these continuous redundifications, but as long as you're looking, that's the thing about our eye. Our eye takes millions of photos at the same time of everything that you're looking at around you. So if you're watching the right things, you can see how it all connects. And that's what I have to present. It's almost like this basically it's understanding. That's really the word that's been around the entire thing that we've been doing. It doesn't really require you to be subject to the rigorous parts of the physical reality and how things can fail. Many of us in humanity have been through states and times where we failed others. People also act like they're foreign to this. This is the stuff that we've been learning from. But there's a cause and effect to all of this. That's what we have to understand. That ripple effect. And then becoming adult, meaning realize when you're in a situation that you should not be in. Understand exactly where the control point is, meaning get through all of the rhetoric and let's say, okay, well, what's really going on here? I'm ready to accept it. I feel like I'm getting older every year. Obviously, people are not getting smart around me. What is the big deal? And this is when you're ready to step up.
Well, Sevan, can I just interject something like we're really near the end, but that what you just said about your inner voice, your understanding, that's really important, that whatever situation you're in, you have to listen to that voice inside of you, because Natasha this whole time had the feeling that, something's not right here, but if she would express that, people would say, oh, that's okay, sweetie, everybody goes through that, you'll get over it. Yeah,
exactly.
Or brainwashed, you'll forget, you'll lose touch with your inner voice, and that's why it's so important not to look to others to save you or to give you the answer, because the answers are really inside you. And if you're going to look anywhere, well, you can look to God, who is inside you anyway. I would say that you have to be very careful with religion and leaders or anything like that.
For sure, and then you should notice that we should all be saying the same thing. That's the main check to all of this. We should all be synchronized to what we're experiencing and what we're discovering is happening to us at the same time, more or less. It's like I can, when people email you or talk to you and say, I was just thinking about that today. You'll see in this, because we are still family. Like, still, even the problems that we have in this dysfunctional family, we are still family. But you will see all this end up coming together at some point. It's just the catalyst. And this is what these messages are for. The individuals who know how to do it with the people in the reality and know how to spread knowledge in their essence through the orgone network or the organic network of our own essence. Let's do this thing. I mean, it's already being done. And that's what I will say. It's not something that we're sluggish on.
Yeah. Well, you know what, if I could summarize what we've been talking about this whole time is that you don't need leaders and you don't even really need the DMT or any of that, but the answers are within you and you have a lot more power in you than you realize, and that what you really need to do is, I guess, go inside more, and that these things like DMT, lucid dreaming, are tools to bridge that with the inner reality and the outer reality, which have always been connected, but we sort of lose the connection between the two, but that through your lucid dreaming and even what you focus about on when you're awake, that you're influencing what's around you as well, and you're influencing your own life. I think we're right at the end of the hour, pretty close.
Yep.
Thought I heard some music there. Yeah, I guess I do. But, well, thank you very much for coming on with me again, Sevan.